Good morning, good afternoon. Here we are approaching the new moon in Taurus after such an interesting time-space continuum with the eclipses from the end of April and through May, along with Mercury retrograde. Here we are. That's all I can say right now is here we are. Such interesting times. So let's go ahead and drop into the space. Just asking for this to be a transmission of the highest truth, providing clarity and wisdom for each individual along their journey, pertaining to the energies present with this lunar cycle. In full grace and glory, and so be it. So let's jump right in, and the first cards that we will be using is going to be the Seven Rays deck. And we'll pull one for the whole of humanity and for a collective reading. It's been thundering outside, so my dogs are inside. So if you hear the strange noise in the background, it's probably my dogs panting. Yeah. Contemplate this. What we do comes and goes in the passage of time, but what we become as divine beings, embracing our divinity from the perspective of a human experience, remains with us for eternity. And this is relative to the first ray. This is the will of God. And it invokes in me in this moment, remembering that we came here to learn things. We came here to contribute and also to attain wisdom of understanding of that essential first ray, the will of God. And we come into this by contrast with the will of the lower self. This place where, if we were to refer to it in Christian terms, it was the fall from grace, where we separated from the trust in Source, the trust in the will of the divine, and starting to create our own will. And so how do we use that free will? By surrendering to divine will. We really can only do this by experiencing the suffering that comes from wrongfully using, let's not say wrongfully, with the misuse of our free energy, the will that we are given, our free will. Free will and energy are one and the same. We are given a certain amount of atomic energy every day, and it's a divine gift. How we use that, if we choose to use it in ways that create more suffering, more confusion, more separation from love, then we ultimately build karma, negative karma, and continue that repetition, that cycle of suffering due to misuse of divine will. So our card that follows is acceptance. All right, well, what are we working with this acceptance? And surrender. Boy. I had a rough morning yesterday morning, and I'm just really starting to feel like in my own personal world, the need to surrender, and the different ways that my own misuse of free will has caused friction and struggle and difficulty. And so I'm curious to receive too, for me, what this means And collectively, this seems like a real fascinating time with everything that is happening financially, or I should say economically, among other things. So we pulled the card about being clairvoyant. On one side it has acceptance, on the other side it has surrender. And this card about clairvoyance is trusting what you see in your mind's eye, as well as your physical sight, trusting the signs and synchronicities that are coming to you. And how we learn to accept these things as they come is the initial stop of surrender, the initial step and stopping point, I guess we could even say, the pause, where we can choose to resist and deny what is being presented, or we can choose to surrender to it. I heard somebody say something earlier, and I got this message: feel to heal. And I'm feeling that with the surrender card, acceptance and surrender. If there's anything that you have turned away from because the feeling was intense, because you didn't want to feel that, and really that is one of the main mechanisms that keeps us in the loop of suffering and keeps us from denying even our own suffering, denying our own pain, is because we don't want to feel it, right? Because it's very intense in a human form to have feelings. But it's only through like these gateways of darkness, of challenge and strife, that we can ascend into the natural state of being, which is light and joy and love, these greater expressions of the divine through our feeling senses. So in this Lightworkers deck, we got Take a Break. A life's work, not a season. Get off the treadmill. It's kind of nice to hear, because the initial reading feels kind of strong. It comes on a little strong. And the take a break. Let's read a little bit more into that. And it's interesting how when it's time for us to rest, that things may happen to shift your work schedule, or to shift your even home care load, or whatever work is for you, even if it's not like, financially compensated. There's still other areas of life that are work, right? Our self-work, our work with family, our work with home, and all of the other responsibilities and obligations that come with living in society. I've found that there are periods of time where I'm forced to take off work, or I'm guided to take off work. And if I listen carefully, then things go much more smoothly than if I try to fill up those spaces. Like, for instance, I'll have people drop off my schedule, which generally it can be booked for 1, 2, even 3 months in advance. So it can be rare to have occurrences where I have a cancellation, and in particular all on the same day, and then not have somebody feel it. I've learned to just accept that as a gift, because what follows when these periods happen, when we're guided to slow down and to not be so focused on the output, but really more of like stillness and nourishing, and practicing the self-care and self-love the stabilizing activities for our body, mind, and spirit and emotions, that what follows is usually a sequence of events that really require a good amount of my energy. I don't think that this is something that is exclusive for me. I do think that these are natural cycles that come in all of our life. It is an ebb and a flow. And a life's work, not a season. Get off the treadmill. Let's hear what this card has to say. It's okay to take a break and enjoy your creations, to take a moment from your busy schedule, to get off the treadmill of life, to appreciate and acknowledge all that you have created, achieved, released, or experienced before rushing on to the next thing. To be in the moment and enjoy where you are, to take a breath and regather your mind, body, and spirit, to recalibrate, appreciate, and celebrate, to decide on what you really want to experience next. If you take a moment, you are not going to miss out. I think that's where some of us can really get caught, right? It's like, if I don't do it, then it won't be there, or something bad's going to happen, or somebody else is going to get it, like that scarcity mindset. Perhaps you have just completed a big project, manifested something significant in your life, released an old way of being, or just been burning the candle at both ends. Is that you? Have you been doing that? Now is the time to take some time out before rushing on to the next thing. You did it. Enjoy yourself and recalibrate. Go on vacation, book a massage, take long walks in nature, go away for a rejuvenating weekend to recharge and replenish. Take a breath and breathe. It really can be as simple as that, as like being present with your breath for a few complete cycles of breathing. And how appropriate as we're moving towards Memorial Day. You know, it's a time where the significance of Memorial Day, of course, is to memorize, to like spend time taking into consideration all of those that have passed, and in particular our veterans. But really also taking that free time that is now given to most of us here, we have off on that following Monday. How are you going to use that time in a way that actually replenishes you? And looking at that, like, can you go ahead right now in the moment and take an inventory of what you may need, where you're feeling deficient, where you're feeling you're lacking, and whatever plans you are securing for the weekend, and that can be this weekend because we do have the new moon this weekend, but also looking into the next weekend. Are you planning in such a way that you're going to feel rejuvenated afterwards, or are you going to feel wiped out? You know, like the excessive drinking, it's so much fun to be around family, to be, you know, out in nature, around the water, and to do all of the things that most people do on Memorial Day weekend to celebrate. But not overindulging, right? Like going ahead right now and creating that mindset for yourself, knowing where your boundaries are, and putting yourself into circumstances where you can honor your boundaries more easily. So to take that into consideration. I'm feeling like I need to draw some other card from another deck. What deck are you? What deck are you? Okay. We'll pull some from the Untethered deck as well. So what are some other helpful ways of working with this energy, the surrender, the acceptance, trusting all of the signs and the synchronicities. And really, it can be difficult to even capture those. Like, I can witness in myself this week of seeing a good amount of signs, getting angel numbers and seeing things that, hearing music that resonated with a conversation I had, or things like that. And I haven't really sat down to interpret. So what good are the signs and the synchronicities if we're not slow enough to even understand what the meaning is? What is it trying to show us? So this says, true personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. I feel like this came in during the eclipses. And it's right underneath the surrender card. Yeah, there's something very powerful in that. True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. So let's lean in. Can you give us just a little bit more clarification, please? Bring this whole reading all together. Child of Light. So this is from the Earth Warriors deck. Child of Light. 33. I didn't even see. This is what I'm talking about. Like, my mind was already moved on to the next thing. I wasn't even present in the moment to see the revelation in the card itself without needing to even read it. 33 being a master number, a number of completion, a number of mastery. And surrender is, acceptance and surrender are ultimately like the last steps in transformation. And here we go. We got a butterfly on there too. So major transformation happening. We need to take a break. We need to really be present with what we haven't fully been present with. And it may have presented itself through the eclipses, and now it's becoming more clarified. With Mercury out of retrograde, we can start to put the patterns together in a way that it's like has form, it has meaning, it has relevance in our life. There is a divine light that does not cast a shadow, nor does it cast judgment, even though it reveals truth, a truth that is sometimes hard to acknowledge and requires that we change our ways. True divine light is healing. It is unifying. It brings hope and it illumines the way. Other sorts of light exist on this planet that are not so pure nor so helpful. Those sorts of light may appear stunningly bright, yet in effect create separation and increase ego. You can recognize genuine divine presence not by how dazzling it may appear at first, but by what your devotion to that divine light evokes in your heart and your world. Trust your feelings over appearances. Move away from influences that create fear, negativity, or doubt in you. Reach out for that which uplifts your heart. Spiritual protection is being offered. Refuse to be dazzled by ego masquerading as something spiritual. Through your prayers and efforts, spiritual light has been accumulating on the inner planes, even though you may not sense that consciously as yet. There will be an intersection of events and circumstances in your physical world through which that light shall pour forth and manifest itself as grace. Continue with your spiritual devotion. There is something truly good to come of it. When we are faced with a deep unknowing, which is what happens when we are growing spiritually and moving through a spiritual initiation, we have outgrown what our minds are capable of providing. We need more knowledge, more wisdom, more light, so that we can find our way through the darkness of initiation and into the blessing of new life waiting on the other side of the process. When we turn our attention to the soul, instead of applying logic and intellect to figure out yet another plan to conquer the irrepressible evolution inherent in the spiritual path, we finally gain comfort. Hope is a quality of the soul. It allows us to bear the uncertainty when, according to a greater wisdom, there is something that we cannot know the answer to, at least for now. So, okay, we are at an initiation point. Yeah, that feels very true, very relevant. And as I'm looking over the entire spread here, at the very top, it comes back to this will of God, surrendering. The first ray, the will of God, requires surrender. Contemplate. What we do comes and goes in the passage of time, but what we become as divine beings, embracing our divinity from the perspective of a human experience, remains with us for eternity. So it is the evolution, this initiation, this place of the valley of the shadow of death, the unknowing, the dying, the space in between. This is where that light is restored. It's where we actually can see, we can tap in, and we turn towards the light instead of to the ego, to the mind for the answers. We go to something higher because we have to, because the mind itself is not sufficient enough for that evolutionary step. This is the embodiment of the soul coming into its form and being practiced in the world. And your inner sight, this clairvoyance card, really taking the space, creating enough space in your daily life right now in this lunar cycle to be present, slow down. If you are overbooking yourself, if you are overcommitting, if your heart is not 100% in something because of the joy that it brings, if you are doing it for any other reason, to please or to accommodate, it might be a good opportunity to check in and see if you need to recalibrate, if you need to pull your energy back a little bit, and to rest and be watchful of what's happening in the inner world, to not be distracted with technology. Y'all, I'm like, my eyes have really been opened in the last several months about how much technology has consumed the human soul. It has consumed so much of our sacred and valuable time to be witness to the process of becoming fully enlightened, to becoming a spiritually evolved being in a human form, to being a part of the huge transformational shift that's happening on the earth. And what direction are we moving our energy in? What are we contributing to? Are we contributing to the shadow of the collective, or are we contributing to the light that's awakening the shadows? So this is time to do your shadow work. The eclipse stirred everything up. It was difficult with the Mercury retrograde to really understand what we were seeing and have it make sense. It's getting more and more clear as we move into this new moon. And this Taurus energy is so very grounding and holding space for the more pleasurable experiences that are available in human form, but we have to surrender to what's already here before us. We have to surrender to the feeling. We must feel to be healed. And taking that time to become a master of our own creation. Because if we move into the new cycle with these unconscious seeds growing, like mold, right? Like mold is something that festers in the darkness. When light comes in, it cannot live. This is the shadow. That is a beautiful metaphor for the shadow realm. And to become masters of this new world that is being co-created, we need to really take responsibility for ourselves. And what are we unconsciously contributing? And what are we consciously contributing? We won't know that unless we slow down enough to tune in to what spirit is showing us, to what our angels, our guides, that our whole team is driving and guiding and supporting and directing us to acknowledge within ourselves. True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. Man, I tell you, I've like really felt that in my own realm, like watching my dreams and like being aware of shadows that live in me and taking time to discern, to understand why are they there, because I don't want to create out of that anymore. I don't want to keep experiencing lessons that I can liberate myself from by feeling and healing it. So that is what this is here for today. Just coming all the way back around, this contemplation of expanding the awareness to consider that you came here to learn things. You came here with certain lessons that you needed to achieve, and so when you hit these points, you don't want to turn away from them. Like, that's why you were here. Remember, that is why you were here. Slow down, take a break. Check back in with yourself. Be in touch with your body. Be in touch with nature. Let yourself get bored. And as these materials come up for you, greet them with acceptance. Greet them with understanding, with love, and surrendering to the process. When you surrender, you say that I trust. I trust. And so if you can meet that adversity in that way, you will receive more scenarios where you trust, where you can trust, where it shows you can trust. Because every single person on this earth is equipped with everything they need to meet the encounters that are presented. It is a part of the soul's evolution. Why they came here in the first place was to learn those lessons. So be okay with the part of you that's not okay. And the spiritual protection, bringing this all back to 33, child of the light. You are a child of the light, which means that you came here with a promise of being protected and guided through the process of metamorphosis, and that this is an initiation. You will be different, and it's because you want to be different. It's because that is what is for the greatest good of all mankind. This is also a collective reading. This is more collectively relevant than many other readings have been before. I'm just getting that in this moment. And to be careful, to watch for the false light, watch for the misinformation, the true misinformation that is guided from the false light. There are forces in this world that present themselves as light, but they are not the one true living light. And so in any moment, if you're unsure of what that is, ask for it. Or even just affirming, I am the one true living light. Affirming that, and then like building the contrast, feeling what is false, feeling what is true, what is expansive is of God, is of creation and source and purity, and what is contracted is of ego and darkness, And when I say darkness, I don't mean with the judgment there. I just mean like the constriction, the place of unconscious. Whew. That was a big transmission. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more. Hit like so that the algorithms will share this with other people. If you find that this was helpful for you, might be helpful for somebody else, please share it with them. My deep love and gratitude. And yeah, so much gratitude. So much gratitude for all of the beings, all of the angels, ancestors of the light, and those that work with humanity's healing, wholeness, and ascension that were part of this transmission for the greatest and highest truth, for healing, wisdom, and clarification for each individual receiving this message, and for the whole of humanity. Many great thanks to you for being here, and I look forward to sharing another one very soon. And until we meet again, keep it pure. Stay simple. Pura vida.